So hello everyone, welcome to Gameweek 5 of FPL. We are the premium FPL podcast at premium_FPL on Twitter. What a weekend really. All the big hitters kind of delivering, and we're going to talk about in detail whether you can fit all three into a potential wildcard for those that are playing a wildcard this week. And then also the midpoint price striker crisis really with Antonio and Calvert-Lewin both injured and suspended. So there's a lot to talk about, and in this game week, isn't there, Mindy?
There is, yeah. You say all the big hitting players delivered. Kane didn't deliver for you, did he?
Oh my god! I was on holiday in Italy last week, and I was 5 minutes before deadline. It basically came down to whether I was going to captain Ronaldo or Lukaku, and I wanted to captain Lukaku, so I risked it, and went against me this time. But it's one of them, isn't it? Probably should, in hindsight, have brought him in, but it's easy to say now.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about the decisions of our team shortly. I just had to
get waiting on that one, aren't you? Sitting on it.
No, well, it was when you said all the big hitting players delivered. I was like, well, you've conveniently ignored the 12.3 striker in your team. Well, we're recording this on Wednesday lunchtime. There's a couple of few Champions League games tonight, so don't do any transfers yet. I've not done any transfers so far with that in mind, really. And it's a Friday deadline this week, so the first Friday deadline of since game week 1, the first one since then. So yeah, don't get caught out Friday with your transfers. And then what else do we need to cover? Yeah, well, if we're live on YouTube, so if you're listening live, feel free to put some questions in the comments, etc. And anything else, admin?
No, I think that's everything. You've covered it. Over 1,000 followers on Twitter now, thanks to your good work, Mindy. So yeah, we're getting our name out there. And our FPL Salah video went down a treat on YouTube, our most watched video to date. So yeah, that was a really good get for us, and we really enjoyed that podcast.
Yeah, so if anybody joined us since then, thinking like we get amazing people like that on, they'll probably be really disappointed now. It's just us two with our mediocre rank histories. But I think international breaks are a good time to get guests. So hopefully each international break now we'll try and get someone who's decent to come on and tell us all the tips and tricks, etc. The only other thing actually to mention is we do have a prize, cash league that we run from the Twitter account. So if you're interested, DM us on Twitter or Instagram to find out how to join. And yeah, I think we can get into it.
Sweet. Bring up the running order if you want to run through what we're going to talk about.
So yeah, the annoying thing for I think most people have one, if not both, of these strikers. So Antonio isn't as big of a problem, but DCL is, I think. So that's something to cover. There's a few strikers in that price range, or some people might be looking just to do one of those strikers all the way up to Ronaldo or Lukaku, which brings us on to the second point of the running order, which is it sort of feasible with having a balanced squad? Is it sustainable to have all three of Ronaldo, Lukaku, Salah with Trent in as well? I think you have to factor in, you can't, we wouldn't advocate losing Trent. So yeah, we'll take a look at what a team looks like having all of those three premiums in with Trent as well. And then on that, so to fit those in, the midfielders at 6.5 million and below become quite important, and there's quite a few that have put their hand up recently. So yeah, we're gonna we'll sort of rank those, look at the stats, see who we think is the top option from the midfielders, 6 and below, or 6.5 and below. And then the fan favorite, Snog Void. I'm I'm on the snogging antics this week, so we're looking at my team, deciding who's the buy, hold, sell, etc. And then the classic premium planning, looking at captains, transfers, and the next few weeks of fixtures, what we need to look at.
Cool. So we'll get into the first topic, which is going to be hot on the minds of probably everyone. Oh, we're going through our teams first, actually. So you got a higher score this week again, Mindy. You making a flying start to the season. Was it mid 200,000? So good start.
Well, 81 points with a -4. I was wrestling with whether to wildcard or not for quite a bit of the international break, and I just wasn't sure enough on some of the fringe players. Like I wasn't convinced enough that I'd be making the right choices. So I decided just to do the -4 in the end to bring Ronaldo in. I think like we covered over the international break, didn't we? That when Ronaldo broke the international record and got the yellow card and came back early, it became more clear that he was probably going to start and get 90. So that sort of swayed me there. I did take out Lukaku to bring Ronaldo in, which sort of takes the gloss off a little bit, given that he braced as well. But the thinking is that Ronaldo's next two are better than Lukaku's next two. So over this I was sort of looking at it in a 3-game week block. I'd rather have Ronaldo for these three than Lukaku. And then at some point after that, I might wildcard to get Lukaku. The other player that I brought in was Damari Gray, which helped the hit pay off because he scored, and Rafinha came out. I didn't fancy Rafinha against Liverpool, and it could bite me this week and in the weeks going forward now, because Leeds have an amazing run. The plan when I did that was maybe to do Benrahma to Rafinha straight back this week, but obviously the Antonio injuries scuppered that. So yeah, I need to revisit my planned transfers. But elsewhere in my team, the fact that I didn't have to lose Fernandes to bring Ronaldo in was decent, and the Veltman and Sanchez both getting clean sheets was good. I think we said over the international break that we still fancied Brighton of the sort of cheap defensive options to be the best ones for clean sheets. So that was good this week. And then most people have Trent. Definitely wouldn't advocate getting rid of Trent. It's like he's way clear in terms of the amount of chances he's created so far in the league. And Salah did what Salah does, consistent. I think a lot of people who didn't have Ronaldo Lukaku captain Salah this week, he was a bit unlucky that a lot of the chances he put on for Mane just got spurred. Like Mane had was it 10 shots in that game?
Yeah. And when he finally scored, even the Leeds fans were like sarcastically applauding him, like when he scored, which I thought was quite funny.
It's funny that it's Mane, because I've seen him in a couple of times when he misses a couple of chances in a game that he thinks he should have scored. He kind of goes on tilt and just sort of like thinks, you know what, I'm just going to keep shooting every time I get the ball until I score. It must be really annoying if you played with him. But yeah, I think like Jota owners were unlucky as well, because he was putting on a few chances. He looked quite involved. So yeah, that was the story of my week. Anyway, 81 points. Was relieved to have Ronaldo in. Antonio, as for most people, the big buzzkill of the week. Wasn't expecting a red card from him, but there you go.
Yeah, I'll move on to mine. I got 69, so a bit less than you. Obviously, the decision not to bring in the man, Ronaldo, kind of pretty much put a bit of a damper on the week. Still a good week, nevertheless. Captain Lukaku probably got a bit lucky with like scoring in the last minute, wasn't it? And Chelsea were quite fortunate to win that game. Never mind, win 3-0. So yeah, in the end, I probably got a bit lucky in that sense. But yeah, probably should have just stuck to my guns and put that Ronaldo transfer in. The players I've got in quite similar to you. Sanchez, obviously 6. Trent, his numbers this year, like you say, frightening, even better than any other year FPL. So he's like set and forget really for the whole season, unless something drastic happens. Shaw's assist to Ronaldo. Reguilon, yeah, him and Kane were both out Saturday evening. Didn't wait to make them 2 transfers with 2 in the bank. Brought in Marcelo and Ronaldo. Duffy, again, clean sheet. And was worried, wasn't there, last week that he might lose his place soon, but Webster's picked up a hamstring injury now and another clean sheet. He's probably nailed for quite a long time now, so got lucky there, 4 million. I've actually got Rafinha, so hopefully this week he'll pay dividends. And then Salah, Benrahma. Like I say, Benrahma's probably one that's on the shopping block soon. And then Lukaku, Kane, and Antonio. So yeah, I've already made my 2 transfers. The only other one would be whether I bring out Antonio for a striker, which we'll talk about in further discussion next. But yeah, still steady, 500k. Which at this point, if you're in the top million after 5 game weeks, you're still in with a chance, aren't you?
So so what's your rank at the moment?
Mid 500k, okay. So 520, I think.
And so your transfers, just to were they 2 frees?
Yeah. Like last week, I was going to do, it's easy to say now, Kane to Ronaldo and Reguilon to Semedo. I would have had the exact money. The reason I haven't brought Semedo in this week and gone for Marcel, it might look a bit knee-jerk, but going ahead to game week 7, it gives me a bit more flexibility with the Chelsea players, because I'm looking to bring in either Mount and a defender or 2 defenders, and it wouldn't be affordable if I had Semedo instead of Marcel, so that's the reason that I brought him in.
Nice. Probably caught a couple of price rises there as well, haven't you, going early there?
Yeah. Lukaku especially has gone up, I think. Rafinha is the one. Leeds, we kind of need to see an upturn in their form, but we'll talk about that now. So yeah, the main topic really is Antonio and Calvert-Lewin. What do you do if you have both? Welcome to Peter Lee, who's looking forward to this discussion. So as you can see there, both, this is taken from Fantasy Football Scout. Antonio and Calvert-Lewin are both top of the expected goal involvement, so that's goals and assists. So they've pretty much a goal ahead of everyone else at 3.7, 3.23. I know Lukaku's played a game less, but them 2 were pretty much standout options, weren't they, up until this week? And now, who does your attention switch to there? Just below, obviously, Lukaku, he's a bit more expensive. Jesus, quite interesting, not too much more. And then you've got your Bamford, Wilson, Wood, Jimenez following behind, who they've been kind of dependable FPL assets for a few years now, haven't they?
Yeah, I think if you've got both, it's really unlucky. I think if I had both, I'd be concentrating on maybe getting rid of Calvert-Lewin if you had to pick one, because I think the thing that makes it tricky is that we've seen how Leeds look so far this season when they come up against teams with decent attackers, and that'll be Antonio's game back. That's West Ham versus Leeds. So I can see him coming back and going off in that game, which is a bit annoying. I mean, what are your are you is that maybe a positive for you for keeping him? Like, if you can, you could just bench him and then have him there ready for that Leeds fixture.
Yeah, that is my thinking at the moment. Jimenez has kind of caught the eye, but until he scores a goal, you're always a bit wary about bringing him in. But then I suppose if you get ahead of the game and get him in, like I watched the Wolves highlights the match of the day, and he was pretty unlucky to not get a couple of assists for Semedo. So yeah, their fixture run now till 14-15 is brilliant. So for someone who's already played the wild card and you're looking to make the transfer, he probably stands out more for me than Bamford, because Leeds have, especially if you've got Rafinha as well, you're kind of relying on Leeds to take an upturn in form, aren't you? Maybe if you don't have Rafinha, it's a lot easier decision. But to say if you've got 2 Leeds assets, I know the fixtures are quite nice now, but they've not been playing great, have they? So it's an interesting one.
Yeah, so I think for most people it is Bamford and Jimenez that are the options, and partly because they both got amazing runs of fixtures. And I think if you were to look at it in isolation, I'd lean Bamford personally. I think we've got something, haven't we, comparing both of them directly?
Yeah. Just a quick note on my team. The only reason I might not do it is because I'll have Sissoko coming in and they play Norwich. And he had a couple of shots. I watched match of the day, like I say, on Saturday, and he had a couple of shots on goal, Sissoko. So that Norwich game, I might be getting a better bench player than others who are kind of holding. So that might be the only reason I don't make the transfer. But these are the two, aren't they? Bamford and Jimenez, if you want to run through the stats.
Yeah, so for the people who are listening on the podcast later on, shots so far, 10 for Bamford, 12 for Jimenez. XG, quite different. So 1.3 for Bamford versus 0.76 for Jimenez. And then on the flip side, Jimenez has created 12 chances, whereas Bamford's only created 2. And then to skip to expected goal involvement, 2.3 for Bamford, 1.9 for Jimenez. And then team XG is quite interesting. So Leeds' team expected goals is 4.2, whereas Wolves is 7.2. So essentially, what you glean from that is that Wolves are the better attacking team so far, creating more chances and looking more likely to score on the data, whereas Bamford's actually individually getting more of the decent chances that Leeds do create. The big thing in favour for Jimenez is the chance creation and his expected assists. It's just what you just said there about watching match of the day, and he was unlucky not to get assists for Semedo. Like Semedo and Traore just consistently miss chances. That's what they do. So that's one of the reasons why I lean towards Bamford. I think he's got like Rafinha and Harrison putting on chances for him, and his stats these are quite similar to his stats from last season when he did well. So I'm thinking I'm thinking of the two, I'd go for Bamford. There is a bit of a price difference, so that's worth factoring in. But yeah, it depends when you're reading these stats, like what you prefer. Do you prefer the player from the more attacking team, or do you prefer the player that's got the better attacking stats individually? Which you kind of have to go with, like what your style is, like what you prefer on that.
Yeah, definitely. I think the only thing I'd say is if you, like myself, if you've already played your wild card, Jimenez is a safer bet for a longer period. I think it's up until about 14, 15 where their fixtures turn, whereas Leeds have got, is it 5 or 6 good fixtures now, and then it gets a bit trickier again. So that's the only thing I'd say on that.
Yeah. So this is these stats were from I think we bring up one of his tweets every other week, don't we? Big man backer on Twitter, he loves it. So yeah, I think it's important to remember though with Antonio, like if you have got a bench player like you say with Sissoko or someone, if you've got someone reasonable you can bring in, like Leeds' defense is shaky and it's going to get worse because they've had an injury and suspension to Struijk. So yeah, like having Antonio for next game week against Leeds is something to bear in your mind if you're making a short-term transfer. Sometimes patience pays off.
Yeah, my only worry about Leeds is everyone's kind of just predicting now they've got good fixtures that they're just going to be like last season. And it's not a given. They might struggle in these easy fixtures. So it is a gamble bringing in Bamford, I'd say. But like I say, he'll probably pay dividends if you do bring him in. We have a question from a new watcher, Donny. So hi, Donny. He's got 3 options here. So bench Antonio, Olmo. I think that's the Norwich fullback, isn't it? Come in and roll the free transfer. Free transfer, yeah. Hit to do Antonio, Benny to Bamford Sarr. Hit to do Antonio, Benny to Jimenez and Rafinha. So he doesn't have the money to do it, Antonio to Bamford direct.
I mean,
you could just get your head around the options there.
Yeah, I'm just reading that, making sense of it. So I think of the hit options, I think Antonio and Benrahma to Jimenez and Rafinha looks better than Bamford and Sarr. I think Sarr is decent and he's kind of like the talisman for Watford, but they just don't. They don't seem like a team that creates a lot. Watford.
Yeah.
So with those like he doesn't seem to be standing out in the stats either, does Salah. So yeah, I mean, it's yeah, I'd probably lean to that. I think. What do you think? Would you maybe
Just bring up
consider?
here. Yeah, I think I'll go along with that. Like I said, I'm edging towards Jimenez if I do the transfer, just because of the extra 0.5, and he's a 90-minute man, isn't he? And if Wolves keep bringing up, if they continue with the 7.2 xG throughout the next couple of games, well, 5-10 games, then he's going to get a goal and assist eventually, isn't he? Playing up front for sure, and he is on penalties as well. I'm not sure. Bamford did finish the season on penalties, didn't he? It'd be interesting to see. I presume he'll be continued taking them. I know Clicks took the first few, didn't he? But he kind of took the reins towards the end of the season.
Yeah, I think if the bench option coming in to cover Antonio was a little bit better for that guy's team, I'd consider just doing that. But I think given it's a Norwich defender, I'd lean to taking that second hit option.
Yep, for sure. We're talking about next is the Midprice midfielders. Is it the premium or the Midprice?
Well, yeah, you've got the thing up for the stats for the mid-price midfield.
We'll talk about.
Oh yeah. So yeah, we'll save the juicy bit on the premium to the end so people keep watching. What was I? So yeah, all the options around that price. You've got Rafinha, Demarai Gray, Doucouré, Townsend, like three in a similar price from Everton there, and then you've got Conor Gallagher at Palace, and then Traore at Wolves. So we focused on here on Demarai Gray, Doucouré, and Gallagher. They're all 5.5 or 5.6. Oh no, I think Demarai Gray's 5.7 now. But yeah.
Yeah, the reason I brought these three up is just because if people are playing three premiums, more than likely going to need one of these three, aren't they?
Yeah. So yeah, I think on the stats, surprisingly, it's Gallagher who's sort of dominating. I think what helps him is that he's on set pieces at Palace, isn't he? Which is something I wasn't anticipating. And he's getting forward so much. Like you can see there, like 13 penalty area touches. But Palace haven't really had a midfielder like that, essentially, that properly gets into the box. So he for the long term, given the fact that he's on set pieces, does look solid. But I think I've also been I've got Demarai Gray. He's
3 shots on target, 3 goals.
3 goals. I can't believe that. It's that's not sustainable, is it? But I think while he's on his little run of form, I'm happy to keep him for a bit. But I think when I come to Wildcard, I'll probably look to Gallagher. I think just because his stats look better and he's got the set piece threat. But we'll probably come on to it later. Like having like one of Gray and Gallagher might be the way that people afford Salah, Lukaku, and Ronaldo. Just to mention Doucouré a little bit, like he looks a good option as well, doesn't he, in the Everton field? Because he's playing more centrally than Demarai Gray, and he just looks to break in late to the box. Like he seems like he's going to get on the end of things a bit more, whereas Demarai Gray is more like running at players out wide. So it's hard to say so far with the data we've got which is the best. But you'd say that Gray and Doucouré are both better than Townsend. He's not going to score one of those worldies every week. He was saying he had a video message from his mum where she made a video compilation of all his worldies, and that inspired him to score enough at the weekend. So unless his mum's sending him special encouragement every week, I don't think he's gonna keep scoring. Though it's like Demarai Gray's the shots he's had, like they have been like goals where like they're not completely unbelievable that he scored, whereas Townsend, that strike that he had was hard to replicate.
I think for me, Townsend's probably more likely to be rotated than Gray as well. I think he came off instead of Gray in the game on Monday, and I think they rely on Gray for the pace, don't they? So if Gray comes off, they're kind of lacking that kind of pace up top with Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin. In the second half, Decore was brilliant. And like I say, his position for Everton is quite unusual now. He's got the license because of Allen and Gomez in behind him. So he's pretty much playing a free roam position. Well, he was on Monday anyway. So, yeah, there's a lot to like about all three of these.
I think so. Yeah, go on.
I'm probably edging towards Gallagher in 7 if I bring in 2 Chelsea defenders and then Ben Rama out for Gallagher. That's what my thinking is at the moment, because that's when Palace's fixtures kind of turn. But I've given myself a new couple of weeks because Palace have got a couple of bad fixtures, haven't they? And then I think it's 7 where their fixtures really start to turn well.
Yeah, so I think if a lot of people are going to be wildcarding in that 7 or 8. So I think short term, if you just want in one of them for a couple of weeks, I'd go for Demarai Gray or Decore.
Yeah.
So yeah, essentially what this boils down to is short term, one of the Everton boys, or long term, if you're looking to stick him in for a while, and Gallagher looks pretty solid. Stats are really good, aren't they?
Yeah, for sure. This is another graph from TED Talks. We do seem to do a graph from him every other week as well. This just gives a kind of wider representation of players. As you can see there, Gallagher's big attempts, he's second behind Antonio, which is bonkers, really. And then as you move kind of across, Pepe's getting a lot of small attempts. He's a bit more expensive. As you see, Traore, we've talked about, he's kind of getting small and big attempts. But Gallagher was the one who stood out for me again there, the big attempts on goal. Which is he's matching Antonio. Ronaldo's obviously only played 1, but Salah and Mane as well.
Yeah, it's interesting to see Rafinha doesn't stand out so far, but that's partly the fixtures that Leeds have had. I think yeah, it's you were saying it's a gamble on Leeds, like whether they'll cut. I think we've seen it so many times in FPL though, where as soon as a team does have a good run of fixtures, things change. So I think it's kind of a calculated gamble if you're gonna go for Leeds players this week. Yeah, it's an interesting one there. I think, as you say though, if you're looking to be able to afford all 3 of the Salah, Ronaldo, and Lukaku, it'd be good if there was an abbreviation for those 3, wouldn't there? Like to make it easier to describe. Like, what would it be? Like,
I don't know. You put me on the spot.
Lassimo or something. No, we'll have to think of one. That'll be our homework for next week. Think of a freeway nickname, so we don't have to keep saying Lukaku, Salah, Ronaldo. And then yeah, it's all the other options. It's Richarlison. I don't know. He kind of looks a bit lost up front on his own. He didn't look great playing the Calvert-Lewin position. And Ben Rama, his stats have fallen off recently, so and playing without Antonio this week's not gonna help him. So yeah, I think it is kind of those options you've already said. I think.
Yeah, the only thing, Ben Rama, I've seen a few people on Twitter saying he might be more advanced without Antonio, and he might be kind of the source of where the West Ham players look to. I know it's a tough game against United, but United's defence hasn't looked great, as we've seen again last night. Young boys, obviously attacking look very good, but I don't think that United game at home is the worst fixture without Antonio. Like I said, there's probably other fires to put out ahead of Ben Rama this week, probably, and then they got Brentford, is it next? Leeds and then Brentford. So still got a couple of kind fixtures after that United game to kind of give him the chance. Especially like me, you've brought Ben Rama in for the 2 blanks. It kind of seems a bit of a waste to get him out already. Maybe just hold and wait and see if he can replicate the form of the first 2 game weeks. Just on Leeds, I was just playing devil's advocate, saying you don't necessarily say the form's going to change. Last year, they did seem to bully the smaller teams, didn't they? So they might pick up where they left off.
Yeah, cool. I think covered that section now, I reckon.
The next section, we're going to talk about people who are playing the wildcard this week and wanted to get the Hollywood free premiums in. Well, both me and yourself have got 3 premiums, haven't we? You've got Fernandez instead of instead of Lukaku. Would you be looking to change Fernandes to Lukaku? I'm guessing not with United's stronger fixtures.
Yeah, it could be. It would mean a hit. So
yeah,
I could do something like Fernandes down to one of the mid-price and then Antonio to Lukaku. Yeah, I've been weighing that up whether it's worth it or not. I've taken a couple of hits already so far this season, so not that necessarily means I shouldn't do it again, but it's Antonio to Bamford just feels a bit neater, especially given the fact that I'm not going to captain Lukaku in these next two games.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's I'm not especially keen. Like we're going to put together a team here, but I think to fit Lukaku, Salah, and Ronaldo with Trent in as well, there are sacrifices that you're making, and it does affect the balance. And it depends on whether you're happy to play with a slightly lopsided team and have a couple of rotation risks in places. But yeah, should we get into it?
Yeah, you're basically relying on either Lukaku or Ronaldo outscoring two 7.5s, aren't you? Midfield, because you kind of got Lukaku and then a 4.5 midfield. That's kind of what you're relying on in a sense. Or Lukaku and a 4 million defender like Duffy, for example. You're kind of relying on that combination to be a 7.5 midfielders. But we'll run through with the 4. Well, it's almost a 4 premium, isn't it? With Trent. In net, would you say Sanchez is still the best option in goalkeeper?
Yeah, just a mention here for Ramsdale because he
I knew you were going to say him there. Played.
But it's a tricky one there with Arsenal because you never know. Like, if he has a howler, like it could be Leno straight back in, couldn't it? So yeah, I'd stick with Sanchez for now.
Yeah, no, I knew you were going to say Ramsdale, especially playing, and he plays a lot with the feet, doesn't he? That's why he'll probably suit an Arteta system. But we'll go with Sanchez, and it'll probably be a 4 million. Doesn't matter who. Let's get that in. Trying to think who. Just put that in just for the sake of it. Because like I say, you're not going to want to play 4.5, and then in defence, probably one of the Chelsea boys, isn't it? If you're playing the wild card now, I'd say whether it's James or Rudiger.
Yeah, I think they're both the same price, aren't they?
I think James is 0.1 more.
Right. But should we go Rudiger for the assuredness of starts?
Yeah, the only thing is James is kind of the sex appeal, isn't it? I think it was one of the FPL wise put his heat map on last night, and he was pretty much playing right wing. So that was the only thing that would sway it towards James. But we'll go Rudiger just because you know he's going to play 90 week in, week out.
Yeah, I think it's just a bit the options they've got there because they played what's he called? The new lad, well, not the new lad, the young lad. Chalobah, yeah. So he came in for Christensen at the weekend, and then they've got Azpilicueta and Hudson-Odoi, who also can play that right wing. So he looks like he's carried on where he left off last season, Tuchel, with the shaking it all about between Champions League and Premier League and all that. So that's probably, I think that's why I'm leaning towards Rudiger.
Cool. And then the other slot would probably be a Wolves player, whether it's Marcelo or Semedo. I actually prefer Semedo. It's just whether this team probably doesn't allow that extra 0.4, but it's whether you think it's worth it or not. Because I do think he's more attacking, gets in better positions.
Well, should we start with Marcelo and then if we can afford it, we'll see later.
Yep.
And then
what formation would you be playing in this?
Should we try for a 3-4? No, a 3-5. It has to be a 3-5-2 or a 4-4-2, doesn't it? I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
we could have an extra striker, 3-4-3 potentially.
Yeah. Who would the third striker be that we could put? Should we try that first then? Because that would be the preference.
I think for me, if you're playing 3 at the back, then I think Duffy and Livramento stand out options at that 4 million mark. Would you go along with that or?
Yeah. What's he called? Obama Deli played for Norwich at the weekend. He's 3.9. So if you were really wanting to scrimp and save, we can have him in the back pocket just in case we need an
All right,
extra.
we'll see how it goes. Duffy. Seen an article on the Athletic today actually saying that Livramento might be tried out in right wing in the next few weeks in front of Walker Peters. So if that does happen, I think it's around 7 Southampton. He would just literally be a cheat code if he's playing right wing. But that's all rumours at the moment. But he does look very exciting. I know they've already got a chant for him, the Southampton fans. So he's definitely nailed for sure.
Right. So midfield, I guess we can quickly just plug in Gallagher and Gray, can't we?
Yeah, got to go with what form of his life. Big Damari. We've got 18.5 for the other 3 positions. It's whether we go 3-4-3 or 3-5-2.
Yeah. So would interesting.
The watch has gone off.
18.5. Should we try it fitting Yotta in?
Yeah.
And then your boy Sissoko for the budget midfielder.
I do think he's still going to be the standout 4.5. We'll see how it progresses, but I did like him in that game that he played at the weekend. That leaves us with a 6.3.
Right. So what are the forward options around there? Is that like Armstrong and Pookie, etc.?
Yeah, that's the only tricky point, isn't it?
I mean, Norwich's fixtures aren't bad now. I just
Hell yeah, nice little run that, isn't it?
I think that I don't know. Given that that's what we can afford, that we're not missing anyone, are we? Armstrong and Pookie, basically, in that price range.
Yeah, the other thing is we don't have a Wolves attacking asset, but you don't know who it's going to be yet. They're kind of not emerged yet.
I mean, given that those are the strikers we can afford, I kind of maybe prefer 3-5-2.
Yep.
So
let's bring a 4.5 striker in. $6.3. So yeah, you're looking at a SAR tryout. You kind of got the best of the 6 million, then, aren't you?
Yeah. So I'd maybe lean Traore just for the fixtures, as you were saying, and the fact that they are such an attacking team. Hope that it does pay off eventually.
So there is a chance you can get a team out with those 4. That I actually don't mind that off first glance. I don't know about you.
No, it's not bad, is it? But yeah, there are definite sacrifices there, aren't there? Having 3 midfielders around the 5 to 6 bracket is problematic. I think given the fact I'm probably going to lean towards not having 3 when I wildcard. I think just because I think that long term, given that you're not going to captain them and the points per million and all that, I don't think it pays off having to sacrifice in like three other positions in your team. I think in a short term play, like if all of the 3 premium options have great fixtures, it can work like over a short run. I'm just not sure I like it long term. But
my only question to you is, what happens if Ronaldo scores a brace or a goal next 3? Are you still? I'm taking Ronaldo out for Lukaku. I think that's going to be the decision what people have to make, isn't it? Like if Ronaldo still looks the dog's bollocks the next couple of games for FPL wise, it suddenly becomes a lot tougher decision to take him out.
Yeah, that is true. I just think that this is going to be a season where people are going to have to be ruthless with that sort of stuff. I think because
it makes it a lot more exciting, isn't it? Because last year everyone just had the same premium. Like there's so many different ways to play it. But I just think in the back of my head, people are going to have a decision to make if Ronaldo scores the next 2, because everyone's going to want Lukaku, aren't they, for that run? You'd be stupid if you don't have him from 7 onwards. So I just think if Ronaldo keeps up a good form, it's going to leave a decision for people to make.
Yeah, so it's It's definitely possible to have, like, looking at this team. It's definitely possible. It just depends on whether you like having so many budget players elsewhere. Well, not budget, but like mid-price. Would you say if you were in my position, and you still had the wild card in game week 7, would you go for the 3 of them then and have a structure like that?
I mean, what helps you now is you've got 2 extra games to make that decision. I think if Ronaldo scores at least one the next couple, then I probably will side with that, because I think Salah's got good fixtures too. And Salah, you're very reluctant to ever take him out. And as a whole, you don't want no premiums in your midfield, because then you leave yourself without Salah or Mane, Bruno, KDB even. So you kind of still want Salah in there, not only for him, but to kind of get on that premium midfielder. I just think there'll be a decision to make. I think if Ronaldo scores the next 2, then I probably still would sway with having 2 up top, and kind of, because even if you don't captain him, 13 points for 2 goals is a decent amount, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think one thing that did sort of look like it fell on what people thought at the weekend was that Bruno's, even though he scored, like he did look to, a lot more of his shots were from outside the box. That seemed like where most of his threat was coming from. And Kane's definitely not in the premium reckoning now. I think.
Oh, you don't need to tell me that, with the hell. Yeah,
I think
he didn't have a shot at all. Not even not a shot.
I think I heard James from Planet FPL say that that's the first time in his Premier League career that he's not had a shot in a game. I think that's partly because of the disruption to Tottenham's team with the international break and all the stuff that went on. But yeah, Kane's definitely. If you've got Kane, I'd be looking to one of Ronaldo or Lukaku, definitely.
Yeah, I think what's helped that as well is 2 weeks ago there was an abundance of mid-price strikers that probably could have matched them too, isn't it? Where they all seem to be going down. Calvert-Lewin gone down, Wilson, and then Antonio obviously with that suspension. So that's kind of, people playing the wild card this week, that's kind of probably gone in their favour in playing the both up front. So yeah, it'll be interesting. In a couple of weeks' time, we might have a different opinion on it.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about next our favourite addition to the show this year, Snog, Marry, Avoid. I think Mindy's going to talk through his options this week.
Yeah, so if you've not, for the uninitiated, Snog, Marry, Avoid is basically our fun version of buy, hold, and sell. So yeah, for me this week, looking at my team with Antonio's suspension, and the fact that I'm going to be wildcarding probably in game week 7, I'm probably going to take the risk of not having Antonio for that fixture against Leeds next week, and have just bring in Bamford for these next 2. He kind of was running in behind quite a bit against Liverpool. Like Gary Neville said on comms in that game, that he was making great runs. Leeds just didn't manage to quite find him. But they have got quality in Rafinha. So I do think that he will get more chances going forward. So yeah, I think that Bamford's going to be the one that I'm snogging this week. We've got him in our intro now as well for the podcast. So hopefully he'll be a bit more amenable to me sticking my tongue down his throat, given that we've charmed him with our podcast music.
Neville does have previous on that, because I think there's a Torres first game against Spurs. He was bigging him up then, saying he was making all the runs, and I think it was 2 games later he hit that 18-point haul. So yeah, he does have previous. So maybe hopefully it'll be right, and hopefully you'll be right to stick your tongue down Bamford's throat. Next, Murray. I think everyone who plays FPL will be marrying this guy.
Yeah, he just the reason I went for him over say Ronaldo or someone like that. Just I think people who got Ronaldo aren't really considering getting rid, but there's always a discussion around Trent. Is it worth the money? Like a lot of people might be looking to Trent to save money to get in Ronaldo or Lukaku, but the value that he offers for the points he's getting, it's just remarkable. And 20 chances created so far, which I think is 7 more than any other player in any position. It's just he's just a chance machine, really, and he's not even scored. He's not scored a free kick yet. Like that'll happen at some point. So I think we've not even seen everything that he can do yet. So he's an absolute hold. When I wildcard, I'll be holding. I won't be surprised if he's in my team for every single week of the season. I think Trent.
Probably the next 5 seasons, never mind just this year. It'd be interesting to see his price next year if he keeps this up, because he's gonna be of a staggering haul, isn't it? Avoid one of the Leeds boys.
Yeah, so Llorente went off injured for Leeds at the weekend, and then Stroku came on for him, got the straight red. So Luke Halen's probably going to have to go back into centre back, which he did last season, and they just don't look great with that setup. Ayling's not a great centre back, and yeah, Leeds. I think even just generally, I regret bringing Ayling in, and because Leeds' defence, it's just really not good. It's just really bad, isn't it? I know, against Liverpool, it looks particularly bad, but maybe they will turn it around in the better fixtures. I just think there's so many better options. Like, you mentioned Livramento, the Wolves players. There's just no real need to look to Leeds for and hope and pray that they can turn it around defensively. There's so many better options. So that's why Ayling is my avoid this week. Did you see his chance at the weekend where he tried to it came in?
Yeah.
He tried to ping it in off his knee. He could have just gone for a diving header. It was funny that. But yeah, sorry, Luke. Back of the queue this week.
At the risk of tempting fate at a 0-0 on the Friday game, Newcastle v Leeds, I think it's got the makings for like a 5-5, 6-6, hasn't it? No doubt it'll be a bore draw now, but yeah, I think Newcastle got the worst defence in the league, and I think Leeds are too far behind them, and also they've got this centre-back crisis now, so hopefully there's goals if you've got attackers in those positions.
Yeah, exactly. If there'll be a lot of anger on Friday if Bamford and Rafinha both come away with nothing. So yeah, onto the premium planning.
Do you want to talk about Pookie top there, Norwich's fixtures? Do you want me to run through? This week's?
For the run through this chart for the podcast listeners.
Sure. So this, as you can see, is season ticker from Fantasy Football Scout. For those watching YouTube and for those on the podcast, it basically ranks teams in order of the next 4 fixtures. So as you can see, or as I'm going to explain, Norwich are top, Wolves, Leeds, teams that we've talked about, Arsenal next as well, and then Liverpool. Even despite having that City game in 7, they're next as well because they've got Palace, Brentford, and Watford either side of that City game. So they look ripe, don't they, with Salah, Trent, and then potentially Jota or someone else. And then Newcastle next. Obviously, got the Leeds game, Watford, Wolves, and then Watford just behind them. Norwich, Newcastle next too. So if you've got Sarr, probably hold on to him. And if Watford are still struggling after those 2, then I think we can pretty much discount Watford options other than your cut prices, Oka, where they're just taking up a bench option. But those 2, hopefully, if you've got Sarr, he'll bang for you. And then contrast. Villa tough fixtures. If you've still got Danny Ings, what are you doing? No, I'm only joking. But they've got tough fixtures coming up. Then Southampton as well. So for those with Livramento, I think it's 9 that their fixtures really turn for real good. But you still got Wolves there and 6 that look good for Livramento. But other than that, they're quite tricky. Then Brentford, if you still got Ivan Toney, fixtures turning there. And then Palace, those we're talking about, Gallagher. Those fixtures are difficult, but then I think it's 9 as well that they start to turn for the good. In terms of premium assets, this weekend, people probably will be swayed by Ronaldo, won't they, away at West Ham, especially without Antonio. But I think still the standout option this week is probably Salah at home to Palace, despite them playing well.
Yeah, so Salah, Liverpool's, I think, team XG is the highest in the league at the moment. So it's a no-brainer for me. I'm relieved to have an easy captaincy decision this week after lots of weighing up whether to bring in Ronaldo to captain him last week and tricky decisions in other weeks. Yeah, not going to overthink that one.
Not swayed. People will be swayed by Ronaldo, won't they, after the double? But yeah, I don't think it's as cutthroat as what it would have been a week ago. But I still fancy Salah.
Yeah, I think Liverpool at home versus United away. I'm just going to go for the better attacking team at home in this one. It's interesting. Before, when you were running through the Arsenal's fixture change, we didn't really mention them in the budget midfielder options, but there are some.
The other point is the team's not very well settled at the moment, is it? Like Emil Smith-Rowe didn't play at the weekend. Odegaard's played instead. Saka, I think it was Saka, Odegaard, and Pepe in behind Aubameyang, but that could change. But if one emerges playing every week, could be Saka, then yeah, they might get added to the list.
So yeah, but yeah, if people are feeling a bit fruity, like maybe Arsenal fans or whatever, and you particularly fancy one of them, they could be an option over one of Gray or Gallagher, etc. And then what about next week for captain? Week after, who are we looking at there?
In 6, probably Liverpool again. Brentford. That's away, that game, isn't it? But then United at home to Aston Villa. Obviously, we've seen what impact the crowd had with Ronaldo returning. I think it'll probably be the same again for that next game at home. So they're probably the two. City play Chelsea, so that kind of makes it a decision between the two of them again, doesn't it?
Yeah, so I think I'd probably then go to Ronaldo in game week 6. Again, favour the home fixture, and then yeah, a week after that it'll probably be my wild card.
Yeah, 7 and 8 is probably quite straightforward, isn't it? With Lukaku, Southampton, and Brentford. The only other ones, City play Burnley at home. So if in your wild card you're bringing in a De Bruyne or even maybe a Torres if he's still scoring, that might be an alternative option. But I think what we can take from here, Salah, Ronaldo next two, isn't it? And then the majority of people will still be playing that wild card in 7.
Yeah. I think so. Yeah, given that. Well, I've accidentally turned some music on. Hang on. Is there a way to mute myself in this one?
There's a first for everything.
Sorry about that. I don't even know how I did that. I was sort of preempting the end of the podcast there. Maybe I was like subconsciously hinting that it's time to go. No. I think the main reason I'm not going to take the hit for Lukaku this week, which I could do, is just the fact that in game week 6 it's that Chelsea versus City game, which
I wouldn't be put off by the Tottenham game though, would you?
No, not the Tottenham game.
Yeah,
but we just said that Salah's the standout captain, haven't we, for this week? So I'm not going to captain Lukaku this week. I'm not going to captain him next week. It feels like a bit of a luxury transfer for a -4 to bring him in, and given that I'm taking out Fernandes as well in that -4, it could hurt. He's not really a player that I'm itching to get rid of, given that he's just scored. So yeah, I think my move this week is, as I've said, pretty much all the way through. It's the boy Bamford.
No, fair enough. It'll probably be either hold Antonio or Bamford and Jimenez for me. Like I said, brought in Marcelo and Ronaldo already. So, yeah, interesting. We've got one question before we leave from Josh Turbill. He's saying he doesn't have a striker this week as DCL, Antonio, and Wilson are all likely out. Would you wildcard with 2 free transfers in the bank, or would you look to use your 2 free transfers?
Oh, it's tricky, that, isn't it, without seeing the whole team? He's in our league, is Josh. Hang on, let's have a look at his team. But initially, I'd quickly say that if you've got 2 free transfers, you don't really want to wildcard when you've got 2 free transfers. I guess the problem that he's got is that he can't really get to Ronaldo or Lukaku in an easy way, given that none of those strikers are in that premium price bracket. So I'm just quickly looking at his team. I think I'd maybe look at doing like a mini wildcard, do 3 transfers for a -4, and maybe like take Fernandes out for someone, and then get the money into Ronaldo or Lukaku. depends how happy he is with the rest of his team, and if he wants to save the wildcard for quite a while. What are your thoughts on that?
It's an interesting one, isn't it? I haven't got the rest of his team up there. What's his midfield?
So he's got Fernandez, Salah, Greenwood, Benrahma as his midfield. So I'd be tempted to take a -4 and do 3 transfers, and like Fernandez down to
Yachty maybe, yeah, and then upgrade DCL to Ronaldo.
Yeah, something like that. Or because and then you've got Ronaldo for the captain next week in game week 6, in game week 6, and then you can save the wildcard for 7 to bring in all the Chelsea boys.
Yeah,
probably what I'd lean to.
I would lean to it, but I'd be open to a wild card in that situation, because they talk about the fixture swing now in 7, but the teams like Wolves and Leeds that people are going to be bringing in, they've got good fixtures now. You're kind of just banking on Chelsea doing well against Spurs, and then that City game, if you've got a couple of defenders being tight 0-0, aren't you?
Yeah, it's true. It's it depends, how happy he is to
gamble, isn't it? Yeah, take the risk.
Because the other thing that he's missed by Wild, if he's not activated yet, which I assume he hasn't, given he's asking now, you've missed a lot of the price like activity. Like one of the benefits of when you wildcard is that you can pull the trigger quite early in the game week and bring in the players for the 0.1, 0.2 rises, etc. So I think that, coupled with the fact that he's got 2 free transfers banked, I'd lean to just using those to sort that out. But it's very unfortunate to have all 3 of your strikers not available to play this week. I don't think that's ever happened to me before.
It's like that is just because 2 weeks ago we were bigging up all 3, weren't we? So that's just real and just the luck. Like that's not bad play at all. That's just real unlucky. So yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to a wild card if you strongly wanted to do that, because I do think Greenwood, even though you got an assist at the week, like it's going to be interesting to see what effect Ronaldo has on the rest of the team. Whether you just go Ronaldo and Shaw, or you do still invest in United midfield, it's going to be interesting what impact he has.
Yeah, don't want to help out Josh too much, given that he's in a cash league with us. So
we'll leave him with that.
We'll leave him with that bit of shit advice we've given him so far.
I think that's us. Everyone wrap up. Thanks everyone for joining on the live stream. We had quite a few listeners there, a few questions, so thanks very much. I know Peter Lee, who's watching today, he's playing his wild card, so good luck with his wild card, and good luck to anyone else who's playing theirs this week.
Yeah, please give the stream a like and give it a subscribe if you just found us. And another plug for the Cash League. Give us a DM or hit us up in the comments if you want to enter. Try and win a bit of money for the end of the season. But we'll catch you next week. Good luck if you're wildcarding, as Callum said, and best of luck with those striking dilemmas which everyone's got this week.
Yeah, don't lose too much sleep. I'll see you all later.
See ya.